Hello and welcome to Coffee Lovers TV. Joseph here, and I'm
Hi.
with a very special guest today. This is my buddy, my pal, Michael Mage.
That would be me.
He
I'm
does the design.
Yes, I do the design for the magazine. I've been working with the magazine and Joseph for, gosh, how long now?
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years.
So you started in the second year of the magazine.
That's
'Cause
true.
I did
Yeah.
absolutely everything in the first year. And
That's
you were
right.
looking at what I was doing, and you were like, please let me help you. Please.
Yeah. On my knees, right, yeah.
Please. It's terrible. No, it wasn't that
No, I
terrible.
didn't say that.
You didn't
But
say
I definitely saw an opportunity. The coffee that you were drinking at the time, well, we started drinking a lot of coffee together.
Oh yeah, that was like
way back when.
I mean, that's part of my whole origin story of
Right.
coffee is just drinking it because I needed it, and it was a good way to get out of the office.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
many times during the day.
Right.
But I didn't, we went to Starbucks. I didn't really
Yep.
care what I was drinking.
Right.
So I don't know. When did you start? Did you start?
Well, about the same time, but really I think you were the one that brought me into specialty coffee, and you had been just trying some coffees that and describing them in ways that I just had never thought of before. I mean, I think my coffee journey is probably like a lot of people out there, drinking coffee for the caffeine content, doing it as sort of a morning ritual, bonding with coworkers, that sort of thing. And when you started introducing me to a lot of the specialty coffee and the smaller batch roasts, really kind of opened up a world. I started to realize that what I had previously been exposed to was really just a coffee drink. Either a sugary beverage or some sort of morning beverage that was just habit forming around caffeine, but not so much appreciating the coffee itself, the bean, the quality. In an early, a lot of times we talk about terroir.
For sure.
And that is something that just repositioned the experience of coffee in my mind, something much more akin to wine or a handcrafted gourmet beverage.
There's definitely a much different psychological approach to coffee when you get into it. Like to me, there's a big sort of demarcation line, and is coffee something you drink as a drug, essentially? You just consume it just to have it, or is it something that you think about and approach and consume for the enjoyment of what it is?
Right.
Like, very different mental approach. One, you're not really thinking about the coffee. It's just a vehicle for something else.
Right.
And two, it's all about the actual coffee.
Right.
And, I mean, before we go any further, the coffee that we have today is like the best example of why you want to think about coffee that way. Because we got some Yemen.
This coffee's outstanding. All of the coffee that's coming out of Port of Mokha and from Mokhtar's operation in Yemen is amazing. Let me get a sniff of that bag.
Yeah, so this, remarkable too, this particular coffee. I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah.
It's either Al Jabal or Al Durar.
Yeah.
This was roasted at least 3 months ago. And if I didn't tell you that, you wouldn't really be able to know, to be honest. It smells it smells like candy.
Yep. Super fragrant. I think you said peaches earlier.
Well, the ground coffee smelled like peaches.
Yeah.
It smelled like fresh peaches, which is wild.
Right.
It
reminds you that you're actually drinking the pit of a fruit, essentially. Coffee is a fruit. And I think that really comes through here. The other piece...
Would you like to fix the bag?
The other piece... Sure. We'll cut this.
No, we won't. No, it's staying in.
All right.
It's part of
the other piece that I love about the other piece that I love about Port of Mokha is the story behind it, and just the fact that if you've been following the news at all, and if you're aware of what's happening, this is not working.
Yeah, no, just leave it.
All right,
just leave it.
All right. If you're aware at all of what's happening in Yemen, this story is all the more remarkable and really gives you a sense of appreciation for everything that has gone into this cup. Extreme circumstances beyond the regular rigor that any coffee has to go through to make it to our table.
Absolutely.
And there's the bag.
Yeah, we're putting together as we speak the next issue of the magazine, which is kind of a culmination of all the stuff that I've done with the Yemen. I've been publishing and talking a lot about Yemen lately, and for good reason. But this will be the sort of exclamation point, as it were, on all of that. And
it's been a great story to follow.
We'll explore some other places for a while after that.
Yeah.
But I interviewed Mokhtar again just a couple months ago at SCA, so we got to see how far he's come and where he's going and where Yemen's going, and that's really good.
Are we ready to sample some of this?
Mm-hmm. You want a sniffy sniff?
Of course I do. Ow, outstanding.
You said ow.
Ouch! Ouch!
It
I'm so
smells
excited.
too good.
Yeah,
it hurts my nose. All right. It's probably still a little warm, but I don't care. So you started off drinking coffee. Was just a drink, a coffee drink?
A coffee drink.
And then I kind of hooked you into it. What do you have a recollection of the first time you had coffee and you were like, "Holy crap, there's something to this"?
Yeah, I mean, I think the flavors, the fruity flavors, I really like natural processed coffees. They tend to have a bit more of those punchy, fruity characteristics, and just understanding more about sort of coffee agriculture, the science that goes into influencing the actual final cup is pretty interesting. So that piqued my curiosity for sure. A lot of people describe, if you're used to sort of a darker roast, I've heard people describe it as tea. Some of the specialty coffee
like
drinks.
lighter,
lighter,
coffees.
brighter coffees as tea-like. And I don't think that that's an inaccurate descriptor, but it definitely cuts against sort of maybe what people are familiar with or that are normally a part of their coffee habit.
There's definitely a big difference in the actual like taste experience of a dark roasted coffee versus even a medium roasted coffee, and that just has to do mostly with all the oils that are in the coffee and the result of roasting coffee so far. Going dark like that. And by comparison, a medium roasted coffee can be more like tea. Just in terms of the way it feels in the mouth, not necessarily taste.
Right.
And then also, I still don't know if this is like true, but I've been on this ponderance that if you drink dark roasted coffee a lot, it just completely distorts the way that you taste things.
I think it's a leap for some people, to really go from a dark roast coffee to something that is a bit more medium or lighter bodied or brighter. I
guess, and for many people, it might as well be tea. If you're just drinking coffee as a coffee drink, you just want the hit in the morning.
Right.
You like that...
The punch in the mouth, as I've heard some people say. Yeah.
You like that deep, nasty oiliness.
Yeah.
If that's...
But dude, I used to drink that. You used to drink that too.
Absolutely.
And I think it's because you didn't have a frame.
I also could never drink that just by itself. And I remember trying to because when I started off, it was all like mochas and lattes, and then I was like, I can't spend $5 a day on a drink, or $10 a day on a drink, and drink 500, 600 calories every time I'm having this drink. So I'm like, okay, let's see. What the actual brewed coffee is like, and just the dark roasted was always not very palatable. Although I kind of made it work out of pure stubbornness.
Yeah, well, the other thing is I think people put a lot of dairy into their coffee, and one of the challenges that we have at my house when I'm making coffee, especially with my dad, is I'll say, hey, try this coffee without milk before you put milk into it, just to get a sense of what the coffee by itself tastes like, and then doctor it to your heart's content. That's fine, but at least try it to see what the underlying coffee really tastes like, and then you can add to it as you need. I really like just coffee black now, especially if it's a great roasted coffee. And in general, I mean, maybe you feel this way too, but I think that people's awareness of lighter roasted coffees is coming more into the forefront. Like, Starbucks had their blonde roast.
Yeah.
Still
I mean,
do.
Starbucks has always had a very large influence, and they see the trend in specialty coffee. I think the biggest shift is really the cold brew.
Right.
Because cold brew
delicious
is it caught on really fast, and it's widespread. Pretty much everyone knows what cold brew is now, and what it's done really is show you that coffee can taste completely different depending on how it's made.
Right.
Which is like the first step to realizing that there's much more to coffee than you think.
Okay, so let me challenge you on that, because sometimes I think that people don't understand the distinction between cold brewed coffee and iced coffee.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people enjoy a cold coffee beverage, but they might not necessarily know, how cold brewed coffee just.
Well, I don't think you need to know how it's made.
Yeah.
Like just knowing that you can go to almost any place now and get a cold brew coffee.
Right.
And once you get it, you can taste you can't taste all the coffee in a cold brew,
right,
because heat isn't being used to extract the coffee.
Right.
So totally another subject there, but there's a whole
and a fascinating one at that.
That's true. There's a whole set of tastes and aromas that require heat to get out of coffee.
Right.
So when you're cold brewing, you're brewing just with room temperature or colder water.
Right.
And you do that over a long period of time, and it takes out a lot of the sugars and lipids, but you miss out on a lot of essentially acids and stuff that need heat to come out. So cold brew, and it's a little contentious in the specialty industry, especially amongst the
the elites.
I was going to kind of go there.
The coffee elites,
I mean, there's always this fine line of sounding too snobbish, and everyone in coffee is really wonderful. It's just the more you get into coffee and you start drinking stuff like this, it's impossible to go back. You can't go back, and then your preferences and your tastes grow and expand. And if you really enjoy the full flavor and experience exploring coffee, then when you cold brew, you miss out on half of that. You're not going to have a good opinion of cold brew. But cold brew still shows people that coffee can taste different depending on how you make it, and that there's more to it. Also, I think it helps people get into drinking coffee with nothing added.
Yeah, well, and at a different temperature too, right? I mean, like Mokhtar talks a lot about not drinking coffee too hot, because your taste buds can't actually experience the full flavor. They're reacting to the heat rather than to the flavor. Which is incredibly hard to do with a cup of coffee that's this good. You want to drink it right away. So I'm trying to a little bit pace myself here. I'm not. A good cup of roasted coffee can taste great cold.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's like a hallmark of a good quality coffee, is if it sits on your desk for 2 hours or the whole day. Like I've brewed and then been like, crap, I gotta run out the door.
Right.
And I'll come back hours later and the coffee is cold or room temperature. And you might think that's nasty, but not with the coffees that I brew with usually.
Right.
Like the good coffees, they still taste really good.
Right.
They're just different, and sometimes I might add some ice to it just to cool it down some more.
Sure.
Or
Fair enough.
I'm actually contemplating throwing the rest of that in a cold wave. But
I would like to see that.
Okay,
yeah.
we may get to that. What then do you think of coffee now? Like, how do you? Maybe you can tell us about your experiences now with coffee that you've gone through. I guess I would call it a transition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm certainly much more aware of the quality of coffee that I'm drinking, and I still drink subpar. Yeah, subpar coffee.
I still drink coffee of the plebs.
Plebeian coffee. Yes, I do drink plebeian coffee on occasion, just because it's convenient. And
I like how you made that sound totally serious.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, sometimes
there's a lot of mass-produced coffee,
right?
And there's a reason why.
It's convenient.
A little side note here.
Right.
There's a reason why most mass-produced coffee just kind of has the coffee taste.
Yep.
That coffee taste kind of originates from Central American coffees, because most of the
I didn't know that.
Well, a large amount of the mass-produced coffees are Colombia and that kind of area, and those I'm blanking on varieties at the moment, but they kind of have just a more like chocolatey, nutty kind of flavor.
Yes.
And when you when you produce it en masse, you get lots of variety. Like the quality is not really pared down.
And they're doing blends, aren't they?
The flavors just kind of... Well, I mean, essentially they do. Yeah. They blend like at the
different
origin.
Micro lots, at least, at minimum, they're blending micro lots.
I mean, they're not really... It's not so much blending micro lots as they're not... Like, in large production facilities, they're not looking at micro lots. They're like, they have a farm, they produce a bunch of coffee, they harvest it all at once, they process it all at once, and it gets pushed out en masse. And that jumbles things. If you want to... Actually, if you want to test, like, your taste buds... on the difference between kind of mass-produced and maybe more specifically produced, I would actually recommend going to Starbucks and getting one of their, like, get a bag of the blonde roast or something like that, and then get a bag of reserve and see, like, take note of how different they taste. I did this experiment not too long ago, and the sort of blonde roast just tastes jumbled and mushy and... Like, I can tell that the quality of the green, that it's not distinct and specific. Whereas in the reserve one, like, there's a distinct nature to the quality of the green coffee there.
And that's really what Mokhtar is doing in Yemen, right? Is trying to not only elevate the quality of the coffee that's picked, but also to preserve the characteristics of each region. And
well, this coffee, for example, and all the coffees they do, like the reason this smelled like peaches and it tastes like rich fruit something, I don't know, like can't pinpoint it.
And let me just add this in terms of my coffee journey. Like I think it's always good to try to describe. I still sometimes get hesitant to describe coffee, but it's really what you like. You don't become so concerned if there are rules around how you describe coffee. You can look at a coffee wheel, flavor wheel, if you need some help, some ideas. I also am trying to get more into the habit of when I purchase a bag of coffee, is to not look at all the described characteristics right away, but to actually brew it, taste it, and then write down some notes to see if my tastes correspond with what they've written down. Because sometimes I disagree, quite honestly. And then there are sometimes when you get flavors that just completely surprise you, like savory flavors, or flavors that you would associate more with like barbecue or smoking meat than you would with fruit or
meaty flavor.
It's
an
odd
amazing
experience.
There's one that's popping into my head from a couple of years ago. We were tasting it at Conduit, actually. I'm not sure. I don't think it was one Jesse roasted. We had brought in a bunch of other ones, but we were cupping like a bunch of samples, just tasting a bunch of samples, and one of them tasted to me like canned chili. And that's just what popped in my head when I drank it. I'm like, it tastes like canned chili?
Yeah. And that's not wrong.
And onions?
That's not
weird.
Wrong. I mean, if you're a Q grader, you might want to refine sort of your palate a bit to the objective characteristics
in order to get to that.
But like wine, I mean, just describe what you like and don't be afraid to just jump in. There's no wrong answers here.
I did put together a pretty good entry point to tasting and describing coffee, my Coffee 101 taste guide. So I'll link to that below in the video if you're curious. You can check that out. But back on the quality, so the reason why this coffee tastes so amazingly delicious, aside from the variety, most of it is the production and the care with which it was put through. So in the current issue, which will be published by the time you're watching this, in the interview with Mokhtar, he talked about how in their first sort of export of coffee, the first major export that went to Blue Bottle, and they were selling them for $16 a cup, that sort of thing, kind of made the round in the news. The second time around, the first batch, by the time it got to port, the quality of the coffee had actually dropped. I think he said like almost 5 points.
Wow.
in their estimation. It was still like, I think he said a 87 or 88 point coffee, which is a really high quality coffee, but they were going for like ratings of 90 and above. There's like this 100-point scale. The highest a coffee review is like the official website where coffees are reviewed. The highest they've ever given a coffee is 97. One of Mokhtar's coffee got 97 last year. I think.
So he's been at the top.
Less than a
That's
dozen.
amazing.
Less than a dozen coffees in 20 years have gotten that rating. But so the quality had dropped, and they wanted to look at because they're trying to expand at scale and keep this really high quality.
Right.
So what's happening here? It turned out that at just one point during the whole process, the coffee was losing moisture too fast, and that's all it took to completely change their production. So coffee is like this really, really delicate thing, and in order to get like this specific quality, you've got to pick at the prime freshness and have all of these intricate steps along the way of processing. It's really ridiculously involved. But that's why most mass-produced coffee tastes the same, because they don't do that.
But
they just
I think that's
a
part of the appreciation process. You really have to understand the total coffee supply chain in order to understand how delicate it is, because I think we often take it as a commodity when, in fact, coffee's in trouble, right? And
in certain senses.
Yeah.
1 sec.
And now, a brief break.
All right, so had to take a quick break there, but now we're gonna just, because I want to see what this tastes like iced. So.
Nice. Now, how long does this cold wave take?
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Yeah.
Just enough time for me to finish my cup.
That's right. So you do the designs for the magazine.
I do.
What do you think about that work?
Put me on the spot there. Work. Are you serious right now?
Yeah, why not?
All right, yeah. No, I mean, I like designing for the magazine. It's great. I mean, the benefits of being exposed to the subject matter, and I think it's always important to keep your hand and to stay creative and to kind of put something out there that on a regular basis.
Can you speak to the process, perhaps? That we're just, I didn't even write this down in the notes, so we're totally off the cuff here.
No worries.
Speak to maybe the process of taking all the content and putting it in a layout for people to consume, because I think that's. I mean, I think obviously, I think you do an amazing job
man.
with it.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate all the work you do with it. I mean, we get a lot of really good feedback. People really enjoy the magazine. But yeah, maybe speak to the process of doing that and making it into this interesting consumable format.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's definitely a passion project. It's one of those things that I do because it's really interesting content, and there are some compelling stories in there that I think warrant some visual touches. And whenever you're pulling together an issue, it's always interesting for me to come into that process and see, well, what type of visual assets do we have? What type of story are we trying to tell? How can sort of the design of the magazine help to inform that or communicate that content? And it's been really rewarding to see and be a part of the magazine and to see its evolution over the past 4 years. And exciting to think about where it can go in the future. So yeah, I mean, I'm just glad to be a part of the process. And then, the added benefits of drinking some really awesome coffee, being exposed to what I think is really the forefront of sort of the specialty coffee movement, and people who want to develop their own connoisseurship in coffee is a treat. So yeah. I think about this in terms of as you grow and mature and are exposed to new things, your interests and your passions, they kind of deepen, and this has been just a really kind of a natural entry point for me. So yeah, it's been good.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Should we drink some?
I think
some
we should.
Cold
I'm
Wave?
just kind of staring at it while you're talking. I'm like, it's cold.
Yeah, excellent.
It's cold.
This thing is super awesome. How long does it take for you to chill the actual?
The chilling
the
of
device.
Chilling the actual device. So when you first get it, when you first buy the thing, it takes like overnight, like 8 hours or something.
8 hours.
But after doing this isn't, because this coffee was not freshly hot off the brew.
Right.
It'll chill much faster.
Right.
But after doing a whole 16 ounces freshly hot brewed, that'll take 2 minutes to chill down. And then it'll take an hour to completely refreeze.
And this is ice cold. I mean, I'm feeling it through the cup, and it's ice cold.
Fruit juice.
Yeah. That's remarkable.
Yeah, it is.
Wow. So, I mean, the device is remarkable in how quickly it can deliver a cold cup of coffee, even directly off.
Well, it doesn't dilute, and that's like the whole point.
Right.
Like, I still like the process. So the other process of making iced coffee with a hot brew is brewing directly onto ice. But then you have to change the ratio. You have to account for the dilution, all that sort of thing.
But this is the flavor profile has changed too. This is, I think.
Yeah, temperature does change like the different aspects that you taste.
It's sweeter.
Yeah, to me, it's like I'm just getting a lot of fruit juice on
raspberries.
This. I can see there's some like almost lime like.
Yeah, I can see that. A little more acid, maybe that I'm noticing. Not in a bad way.
Well, I'm done with that. Yeah, so this has been Michael Mage.
And Joseph Robertson.
Lead designer.
Lead designer.
Magazine.
Publisher.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions for Michael or me, leave them in the comments below.
Please do.
And we'll be happy to chat. And a special thank you to Mokhtar Al-Kanshali, Port of Mokha, and all of their team for all the wonderful work that they do and for giving us this delicious coffee to drink.
Cheers, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.